next on Cartoon Network. Move over, Commander Farrell. The SWAT cats are coming through, and there's nothing you can do about it. Ha!
This is Checkered Childhood, a classic Cartoon Network podcast covering its first 15 years.
I'm Funky, I'm Fred.
One square at a time.
Tonight's the big night.
Fire up those turbines, ToonHeads. I'm your host, BDubs, and welcome to Checkered Childhood, a classic Cartoon Network podcast covering the first 15 years of the Checkered Channel's history. Today we're taking a fighter jet into Megakat City, where we'll meet two mechanics-turned vigilantes in a retrospective of SWAT cats, the Radical Squadron. It's an action-filled history filled with hopes and dreams, but also an undying cult fan base who gets a second chance after their 9 lives are up. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's dive in and see what made SWAT Cats a cult classic of the 90s. Origins. Back in 1993, an onslaught of home entertainment was proving to be larger than life for young viewers. Jurassic Park stomped the competition in theaters with a massive $48 million in box office ticket sales, leading the charge, while the controversial The Death of Superman crossover comic was sending shockwaves through the comic world. Over on TV, your run-of-the-mill squeaky clean 80s cartoon was fading out in place of something darker, edgier, and with an attitude to match the high-energy action of Power Rangers over on Fox Kids. We got hits like X-Men, Batman, and Spider-Man's own, quote, the animated series too. But what about Hanna-Barbera? They had their tried-and-true classics decades prior, like A Pup Named Scooby-Doo and The Jetsons, which were fine for the average family audience. But could they keep up with the changing tides of viewership that was about to send them underwater, thanks to an insatiable demand for something fresh from kids? Well, yes, but they'd have to test the waters a few times until they got a torpedo sighted for Cartoon Network to ensure a hit. Their ABC cult classic, The Pirates of Dark Water, was a hint of things to come. Enter Christian and Yvonne Tremblay, two do-it-yourself French-Canadian illustrators who love to draw. They pitched the idea to Hanna-Barbera in the early 90s through numerous posters featuring more cartoonish cats in fighter jets escaping monsters through explosions. They were going for something akin to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which had already proven in the 80s that there was an established fan base for a sci-fi action kids show, but also made their initial character designs a little bit more cartoony so it could fit into the established show lexicon in terms of style. Hanna-Barbera loved seeing the fresh material and signed them on immediately to produce the show. But there are some at the budding network who didn't quite like the feline duo's tone. Mainly Ted Turner, media king of Turner Broadcasting, but more on that later. With the show greenlit to be produced at Hanna-Barbera Studios, SWAT Cats The Radical Squadron aired on TBS Superstation in September of 1993 as a part of the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera block, which has been around since 1985, airing all the iconic classics and spin-offs imaginable. The show fared lukewarm, but didn't stand out too much there. It wasn't even on Cartoon Network's radar until October 3rd through 7th, 1994, in a special SWAT Cats Week premiere. That's when the show picked up momentum. It quickly skyrocketed to success, becoming the #1 animated syndicated show of the year, according to Nielsen Television Index, which was covered in an article in Toon magazine that year.
Matchhead missiles loaded, locked, away!
Cancellation. Despite high ratings, however, Ted Turner was displeased with the show, standing out from the crowd of his cartoon library with its brash, in-your-face action with attitude. He claimed, "We have more cartoons than anybody. The Flintstones, the Jetsons, the Smurfs, Scooby-Doo. They're non-violent. We don't have to worry that we're encouraging kids to kill each other, like some of the other cartoon programs do." At the time, US government regulators were cracking down on non-educational kids' television aimed at selling toys to their audience at the expense of substance, which was an all-too-common occurrence in the 80s before. He was also developing the ambitious World Premiere Toons / What a Cartoon project at the time as a vehicle for original Cartoon Network content, so he might have needed to redirect his energy towards that brainchild in order to fully see it through with Fred Seibert at the helm at Hanna-Barbera. As a result of their unfortunate fate, SWAT Cats was X'd out after a slow death of limited reruns in the dreaded Sunday morning block where programs go to die. Because every American was basically out shopping or at church then. The show ended just 3 episodes short of its projected conclusion in the second season, where only storyboards and voice recordings were completed before the production team got the pink slip. While SWAT cats may have been taken down to pave the way for more successful endeavors at Cartoon Network, our unlikely feline heroes are down but not out yet. You could say they are resting and recharging for a mighty comeback much, much later.
Yeah, let's finish him off before the others get here.
Premise. Sometime before SWAT cats were known as a vigilante duo, they were originally part of a large metropolitan military police squadron named the Enforcers, who patrolled Megakat City under the direction of Commander Farrell. In one fateful instance, Chance Furlong and Jake Clawson were pursuing the elusive Dark Cat, but just as they were about to take him down and bring him in with a missile ready to fire, Commander Farrell intervenes, causing them to accidentally misfire and hit the Enforcer headquarters building instead. Oops. Fortunately, despite their massive mess-up, Commander Farrell reassigned the two cats to the scrapyard, where they spent their days fixing vehicles, refining their fighting skills, designing new gadgets, and watching the occasional episode of Scaredy Cat on TV. Bound to get justice and bring down Dark Cat and his accomplices, Chance and Jake take on new identities as Razor and T-Bone in the SWAT Cats to take down enemies independent of the Enforcers. The show is a mix of Monster of the Week plotlines with an overarching story filled with action that weaves gracefully through SWAT Cats' history, and even introduces new characters, both friends and foes, along the way. During their heyday, merchandise was made to help promote the show, despite being shuffled around 2 TV channels during its initial airing. Products included kids' meals toys at White Castle and Carl's Jr., along with a Super Nintendo video game of the same title in 1995. 3 VHS tapes were also compiled into 2 episodes and a Space Ghost episode back then, but they are hard to find these days unless you can snatch one up off of eBay. Much later in 2010, a SWAT Cats The Radical Squadron DVD was released under the Hanna-Barbera Classics brand. Luckily, despite having a small amount of merch to promote the show at the time, interest remained intense among a cult following, keeping the show alive amongst online communities until today.
Dark Cat, I am taking you down.
Kickstarter Revolution. SWAT Cats fired up their jets once again when the Tremblay brothers launched a Kickstarter campaign on July 23, 2015, in an attempt to revive the show through either a new series or even a 70-minute film. The campaign impressively reached its $50,000 initial funding goal within just one day, thus helping the showrunners create new promo material and concept art to get investors' attention and back the revival project even further. The project, titled SWAT Cats Revolution, featured a modernized logo and 3D models of T-Bone and Razor for fans to feast their eyes on. The campaign concluded its funding period with a total of $141,500, with the help of 2,014 backers, which allowed the Tremblay brothers to reach their second stretch goal to produce a 2-minute animated teaser and clarifying what the new series would look like. Wallpapers, postcards, shirts, and rare signed prints from the original show were given as backer rewards too. But that's not all. It's clear that these fans of SWAT Cats got a case of cat scratch fever when a second campaign launched just 10 years later, in November 2025. Not too long ago, I might add, as of this recording. In the second campaign, the Tremblay brothers launched their project for the SWAT Cats' first ever comic, entitled Megakat City Has Fallen, which picks up the story right where the TV show left off back in 1995. Clearly, the nostalgia is fueling 90 kids' hearts and minds stronger than ever, because the project was instantly funded with their modest $40,000 stretch goal smashed, breaking through to a closing funding amount of a whopping $738,000. The comic even reached a $500,000 stretch goal featuring a motion comic version, with Charlie Adler and Barry Gordon returning to voice their iconic roles of T-Bone and Razor respectively. Apparently, the motion comic will be fully animated and feature DC veteran Joseph Ilyich editing the story, one where Megakat City is reduced to a dystopian hellscape ruled by Dark Cat 2. So, if you want more info on the project, I'll link to the campaign in this podcast episode description for you. Man, it's insane to think after all these years, fans can make such a powerful impact. But here we are. 3 decades of dormant passion has finally been released to the public. Sometimes good things take time and need time to fully express themselves. Such is the case with SWAT Cats.
It's one of those meddling SWAT cats. Take care of him.
So there's a little bit of info about the show in case you've never seen it before. Of course, you know the title is SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron, but is often referred to SWAT Cats for short. It was created by Christian and Yvon Tremblay, who are French-Canadian brothers, I might add, and was directed by Robert Alvarez, who also worked on Disney shows and later What a Cartoon shorts. Primary writers include Lance Falk and Glenn Leopold, and the theme music, which was the original score, was by Randall Chrisman. Other composers for in-show music include Matt Muhobarak, John Zucker, and Nick Brown. The format of the show is a dark, edgy 2D animated drama featuring 25 22-minute episodes over 2 seasons. There are also a handful of unfinished and unproduced episodes that were storyboarded and recorded, but never got past the phase of production, unfortunately, due to Ted Turner's hand. The original air dates for SWAT Cats included September 11th, 1993 to January 6th, 1995, and that includes the TBS Superstation airing too. It also appeared alongside Two Stupid Dogs as original Hanna-Barbera cartoons in 1993, and also premiered the same year as Biker Mice from Mars, which also had a similar edgy anthropomorphic animal plot going for it. Coincidence? I think not.
I need your help, guys. This crate pinged all the way from Megakat Bay.
What were you doing way out there, Callie?
So here's a rundown of the characters from the show. And I do want to say that there is a lot, and I mean a lot of characters, from main to supporting and all that. So if you want to dive more into deeper detail, check out either the SWAT Cats wiki or the swatcats.info website for more information, in case you want to learn more about a character I don't mention here. These are just the main notable ones. Starting off with our main heroes, we have Jake Razor Clausen, who's voiced by Barry Gordon. He's the technician of the group, specializing in weapons and vehicular design, including the creation of the Turbokat jet. He's the older and more restrained of the two, and enjoys martial arts on the side. He also watches Late Night with David Letterman, a play of Letterman, of course. Right by his side is Chance T-Bone Furlong, who is voiced by Charlie Adler. He's the muscle of the group who pilots the Turbokat and spends plenty of time watching his favorite show, Scaredy Cat. He's also the younger of the duo, often acting in the face of great risk, and he's willing to save his best friend and the Turbokat from any harm. For supporting protagonists, I noted Commander Ulysses Farrell, who's voiced by Gary Owens. He's the leader of the Enforcers who reluctantly supports the SWAT Cats team during battle, often feeling jealous or enraged at their swift blow of justice to bad guys, makes his military force look a bit inept by comparison. He does respect them to a degree, though, but was also responsible for sending T-Bone and Razor to the junkyard to pay off the debt created from the property damage done to the Enforcer headquarters. By his side, we have Lieutenant Felina Farrell, who's voiced by Lori Allen, the commander's niece who occasionally joins Razor and T-Bone on their missions. Introduced in the second season as a lieutenant in the Enforcers, she's a bit of a hothead in action, but also a very skilled pilot. Next up, we have Mayor Mangst, who is voiced by Jim Cummings. He's a bit of a aloof buffoon for a mayor that served 10 terms of Megakat City. While his assistant claims he hasn't done paperwork in years, we can usually see him in the show slacking off or just playing golf to avoid heated conflicts that SWAT Cats handle for him. He's based off of the Manx Cat. Next, we have Calico Callie Briggs, who's voiced by Tress McNeil. She's the deputy mayor and does the heavy lifting for managing Megakat City. Since she believes in the good that the SWAT Cats does for her locale, she installed a radio communicator to reach them in case trouble was afoot. Chase also happens to have a crush on her. Lastly, for the supporting protagonists, we have Ann Gora, who's voiced by Candy Milo. She's the star reporter of the Cat's Eyes News. Similar to April O'Neil, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fame, she was often on the scene where conflict arises to signal the SWAT Cats to leap into action. Occasionally, she can be reckless and get herself in danger too, but luckily, they save the day. Moving on to our main villains category, we have Dark Cat, who's voiced by Brock Peters. He's the main villain of SWAT Cats, who is highly intelligent and highly evil to match. He's a big lavender cat who wears a cloak and calculates with high accuracy strategies to thwart anyone who gets in his way, especially Razor and T-Bone. He also controls the Creeplings, which are imp-like minions to do his dirty work. In addition, he formed a temporary alliance with Dr. Viper and the Metallic Cats in one episode called Catastrophe to stop them. But that didn't last. once the others realized he wanted the rewards all to himself. He's the only main villain without a proper origin story, though it's speculated he was a judge in Megakat City by day. Also, in an odd recurring pattern, he tends to rig his hideouts with explosives. I'd say he's similar to Skeletor from He-Man, if you can see the comparison, definitely with the hood and the purple. Next up, we have Dr. Viper, who's voiced by Frank Welker. He's a scientist who was mutated into a half-snake, half-cat creature after a fall in a biochem lab fused him with an experimental regenerative formula. As you can expect, he became a, quote, mad scientist, utilizing his vast knowledge of biology, genetics, and robotics to turn Megakat City into Mega Swamp City, populated by mutants like himself. I would say he's similar to the Spider-Man villain Lizard for his snake-like appearance and regenerative properties, and he only really attacks with his tail or just creating weird creations with his different vials of formula. Moving on, we have the Pastmaster, who's voiced by Keen Curtis. He's a century-old, orange, zombified sorcerer cat shrouded in a purple robe from an unknown time, who often combats the Swat Cats duo with dinosaurs from an interdimensional portal, or dragons, depending on what time he pulls them from. He uses a mechanical pocket watch along with his spellbook, the Tome of Time, to make creatures from other eras, both past and future, appear. He was unleashed in the very first episode of the series from a chest in a graveyard, and his main motivation in fighting the SWAT Cats is to find a way back to his own time again. Last, we have Mac and Molly Mange, aka the Metal Cats, as some of the main recurring villains. They're a menacing duo of cats who act like the iconic gangsters of the 1930s Bonnie and Clyde. They originally served as the heads of one of the biggest mob syndicates back when they were just anthropomorphic cats, but once they were drowned after their escape boat was hit when attempting to break out of Alcatraz prison, their dead bodies were found and brains were reanimated in mechanical bodies by Professor Hackles. Mac is more the muscle, while Molly is more the brains, and yes, they do love each other as a couple, despite their crazy life together and the reference to the real-life gangster couple. On to supporting antagonists and villains of the week. Starting off, we have Rex Shard, who's a prison inmate serving 9 lives used to test the Gemcat 6000 weapon, which, when used, had the unfortunate side effect of transforming him into a crystalline body. He appeared in the Chaos and Crystal episode. Next up, we have Megakat, who is a fusion of the spirit of a malicious jester and comedian turned asylum patient, Lenny Ringtail, who warps reality itself to get revenge on the knight, king, and queen who trapped him in a jack-in-a-box. Oddly enough, despite having immortality, invincibility, and teleportation abilities, his weakness are the little white balls on his jester's cap. He appeared in the Enter the Megakat episode and the SNES game too. Moving along, we have Dr. Harley Street, who is an astrophysicist who is bitten by an alien creature and then transformed into a giant insect creature named Cicada. Named after a real-life street in London too, where private medical practices would happen. He appears in the Season 1 episode Cicada and later in the unfinished episode Doctors of Doom. Next up, we have Hard Drive, who teams up with Dark Cat more out of fear than loyalty. His special ability is to implement a special search code to electronically hack into the Enforcer's database and steals top-secret computer files. He also utilizes Coates' electrical abilities to take down Enforcer choppers. His first appearance was in Night of the Dark Cat. Lastly, for notable villains of the week, we have Volcanus, a giant rock monster impervious to the physical assault of your standard SWAT Cat's weapons. His weakness, actually, is a small opening in his back where the dynamic duo punched a hole into him and set explosives inside in order to defeat him. As you can guess, he was featured in the Volcanus Erupts episode of Season 2.
Launching the cyclotron.
So we talked a little bit about the characters of the show that makes SWAT Cats what it is, but what about the vehicles? They gotta have some sort of like high-tech, souped-up arsenal of weaponry mixed in, right? Of course, you know the Turbokat is the mainstay of the series, which is an iconic high-velocity jet that SWAT Cats use to carry out their missions in most episodes. It's fashioned from salvaged parts of old military planes from their junkyard, and this puppy is equipped with everything from homing missiles to ejector seats. For missions involving more street crime, there's also the Cyclotron, which is a weaponized, rocket-powered motorcycle that Razor uses occasionally to motor through tight spaces and also chase villains throughout the city. It comes in a 2-seat variation, so T-Bone can get in on the action too. For our underground baddies, we have the Turbo Mole, which is a drill-type vehicle with tank treads that was used to penetrate the earth and tunnel deep underground to save Angora from mutant scorpion creatures in one episode. Also, for rare vehicles, we have the Hovercat, which is a hovercraft-like vehicle used to infiltrate a large robot named Zed in the Unlikely Alloys episode, which was the season 2 finale. Rounding things out, we have the Thunder Truck, which pretty much looks like a giant monster truck with a turret on the back and big teeth for its grill. It was actually re-engineered from a tow truck, and it's pretty impactful, though I think it was only used once or twice in the series.
Hey, I'm trying to watch Scaredy Cat. It's an 80-hour marathon.
So with all that being covered, where can you watch SWAT Cats? Because I know it sounds pretty exciting to you, right? I know it does to me. Well, you can find it on YouTube if you pay for it, Facebook via Cartoon Toonie page, Daily Motion, which is free if you can catch it before it gets taken down, or Apple TV and Amazon Prime if you have a subscription. But if you're old school like me, you'll definitely want to get the DVD box set because, hey, subscriptions aren't everything. They tend to be annoyances sometimes. Some suggested episodes that I recommend you start with is The Past Master Always Rings Twice, Destructive Nature, Ghost Pilot, and A Bright and Shiny Future. So what are my memories of SWAT Cats growing up? Not much, to be honest. Mostly the commercial bumpers and how cool it was to watch them. But I never took the time to watch the episodes in full, or at least several at a time. I don't know why. It just didn't really grab me like other shows because I was neck deep in Nickelodeon and Disney. And Power Rangers too. Like Power Rangers, X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman. I guess there's just too much action going on for me to take notice. But I did like how it felt similar to Biker Mice from Mars and Road Rovers from that era. So I watched an episode here and there. But yeah, didn't really catch it that often. I was just too busy watching other stuff. Which is a shame because I really love all the voice actors and actresses who participated in this show because a lot of them are heavy hitter names that really have a long, impressive list of IMDb credentials built after this in their point in career. Some like Charlie Adler and Tress MacNeille, Jim Cummings, Frank Welker. I mean, Candy Milo too. There are tons of big names here. So for that alone, you got to check it out. It's definitely fun, nostalgic, got a lot of 90s extreme action in it. And yeah, a lot of fun. I wish I kind of did watch it back then. With everything said in this retrospective, why do you suppose SWAT Cats actually matters? Why is it worth remembering after all these years? I'd say that the show's existence is living proof that exposure through syndication and a small yet enduring passionate fan base can indeed extend the life of a fringe TV series concept. Thanks to modern marvels such as a Kickstarter or cosplay conventions and even nostalgic merchandise resurfacing. With Cartoon Network basically not existing anymore, no thanks to predatory streaming giants, this trip to a bygone era proves that with enough time and the right audience keeping it alive, a show concept can still be successful with all the odds against it. Hey, I mean, if turtles with ninja weapons can become a comic cultural icon, then so can cats with fighter jets too. Considering their recent history, the SWAT Cats are looking at a bright, shiny future. So here's our closing question for you. In your opinion, why do you love the SWAT Cats? You've already heard why I love it and what this show has to offer, so let me know. Either you can send me an email at checkyourchildhood@gmail.com if you're into that, or if you want to check in with comments, let me know on YouTube or Spotify. If you're also feeling generous and want to help the show expand to even more cartoon enthusiasts who would use a good dose of nostalgia paired with wisdom, you can rate and review this podcast on Spotify or, like and subscribe on YouTube. Whatever you want to say about it, I want to hear it because I love Cartoon Network history and this is why you should too. Thanks again for taking a trip down nostalgia lane and reliving some SWAT Cats recollections with me in this retrospective. Did you learn anything new? Did I spark some cherished memories of the show in your mind perhaps? Hopefully at least one thing sticks with you after our chat. But It looks like it's time for me to go. I'm getting a call from the commander to stop a looming threat in Megakat City. I've been your host and cartoon historian, BDubs. Check you later.
Hey, come on, you slouch. We've got work to do.